All right, hey everybody, and it's been a while since I've done a video, but hopefully you guys have been following along with the girls. We have had so much fun this school year, and I've learned a lot. I'm going to do a video with the girls in just a little bit to kind of wrap up the school year. But one of the things that I haven't done yet that I thought would be really helpful is I've got a breakdown, literally, you guys, I spent some time on this today. I have a breakdown of the costs and what we spent and also the curriculum. So what did we end up doing throughout the year with homeschooling slash unschooling? And this is obviously going to be one of those informative videos. If you're really thinking about doing this with your kids, one of the first questions you're probably going to have is, what are the costs? So I'm going to break everything down. I'm going to tell you exactly how much money we spent because we did track all of it, because I want to know what to expect for next year. Okay, you ready? I'll try to put some graphics up there with numbers and stuff so this video isn't too boring. All right, so starting out at the beginning of the year, I just want to cover what equipment we needed. And that's pretty simple, okay? Throughout the year, we got some stuff at the store here and there because the girls would need poster board or maybe some new markers or something like that. But I bet we spent less this year than most years donating things to teachers. And then for electronics, we have laptops for the girls, but here's the thing. I had an older laptop that wasn't quite as powerful as what I needed for work. So I ended up donating one of the laptops to my girls, and then I got another refurbished laptop off of Amazon. We ended up getting 2021 MacBook Pros because that's what my computer was, and we found that on Amazon for $899. Later on in the year, the girls got Kindles, and those were $139.99 each. I'm going to talk more about the Kindles a little bit later, but when it comes to actual equipment that we used and needed, like I said, some things at the store here and there, probably under $100 total for that. And then the equipment were really their laptops. They needed their own laptops. I wanted them to be powerful laptops, and then the Kindles. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about the structure, because whenever I talk to other homeschooling parents, they always want to know about the curriculum. But we live in this kind of area, at least what we decided to do with our girls, where we're not just homeschooling. I'm really trying to break them out of typical schooling behavior. I'm really trying to get them to just learn as part of life. So we're kind of this hybrid model where I want the girls to stay on track, because if they ever decide they want to go back to public school, I want them to be able to do that. So I'm trying to keep up with their grade level. So what are they learning in 5th grade this year? That's what grade they're in right now. So that's important to me. But at the same time, I didn't want all the rigidness of regular school, okay? Not just going into a physical building, but the testing that comes with that. Like right now, my middle son, Urban, is doing a bunch of state testing, federal testing. He hates it. And honestly, when you look at those numbers, they really don't prove anything anyway. So the students hate that kind of testing, and it's pointless. So I didn't want the girls to do any kind of standardized tests. I just don't think that is a good way to show whether or not you can understand a concept. So what we ended up doing is we ended up going with a place called Bridge Academy. I highly encourage you guys to check them out. The website is bridgeacademy.us. So you can review their videos, but they have students from all over the world, and they are considered a private school, not because your kids are just going to show up and they're going to teach your kids, but it's more of a legality thing. Okay, so if you're considered a private school, you don't fall under typical homeschool rules, because they still make homeschooled kids jump through a bunch of hurdles, and you got to go places for testing, and you got to prove certain things. So what Bridge Academy does is they handle all that for us. And it was started by a mom. And the reason it's called Bridge Academy is because they are specifically reaching out to people like us that are this hybrid, that we don't want to do what everyone else is doing, but at the same time, we really didn't know what we were doing. And they serve as a bridge, hence their name, to unschooling. Okay. So basically, I tell them everything that we're learning, and they do provide some curriculum if you want to use it, but we didn't use any of it this year. So I tell them what we're doing, and it's helpful that we have this YouTube channel because they can see what the girls are doing. And then they take care of all the paperwork. And you guys, that was one of my biggest concerns, was screwing something up so that my girls wouldn't get credit for fifth grade, or they wouldn't have something that they needed. Bridge Academy handles all of that. I don't have to worry about that at all. I can just focus on my girls and what they want to learn. So check them out. You also get transcripts, by the way. So they are accredited. And if you need transcripts, that's more when your kids are a little bit older. But if you do need that, they will provide that. Okay, so that gets all the paperwork stuff out of the way that I know some homeschool parents get frustrated with. Now let's talk about actual curriculum. It's not like, I know there's a lot of different types of curriculum out there, and we use this method and we use that method. But again, we just wanted to do our own thing. So I had heard some YouTube parents that homeschool their kids talk about a program called IXL. So it's IXL.com. And I even wrote down the prices for you guys. I'm very detailed. So earlier this year, I checked them out, and I believe at the time they only offered a yearly package, which was kind of scary to me because I didn't know if the girls were going to like it or not. I believe now they offer monthly and yearly. So for the month, it's $19.95 as of the recording of this video. For the year, it's $200.39. So this is kind of your core curriculum. And like I said, I wanted my girls, especially because they had spent so much time in the public school system already, I wanted them to have that structure, because what if they decide that they want to go back at some point? I don't want them to be behind. If they're ahead, great. But we still have to know what is being taught out there in the schools, right? So we tried IXL, and the girls were okay with it, but I happened to come across another video about 2 weeks into IXL called Power Homeschool. And this is what we ended up using for the rest of the year. So it was within the first month of IXL, and I was able to get my money back for the yearly subscription. So Power Homeschool, they partner with a company called Acellus. Okay, it's ACELLUS. And this is for K through 12. And Power Homeschool does a really good job of breaking down the topics. They have really, I think it's interesting videos that play before the lesson. And then after the lesson, you've got some sample questions, and then you do like just a mini little quiz to kind of test your knowledge. I think there's maybe 10 questions, something like that. And then you're pretty much done. There is a review, like there's a final for each of the courses. And normally the pricing for this, according to online, I never paid this, is $31.25 a month. Now keep in mind, we've got 2 girls, so that would have been quite a bit of money for us per month. And they do have a special. I don't know, it's not really a special, like it's an ongoing thing. They call it the Roger Billings Scholarship. And that's kind of a fancy term for what it is. Basically, once a week, they have this, they call it Science Live. And it's a video, maybe it was live at one point. We never watched it when it was live. But it's a video that the kids have to watch, and then they leave a comment. If you do that each week, you get a huge discount. So it goes from $31.25 to $19.95 per kid. So we did that. And honestly, there were some weeks that we missed. We didn't get kicked out. So I'm not suggesting that you don't follow the rules, but I don't think it's super rigid. And $19.95 is the same as what IXL was. Now for my girls, Power Homeschool / Acellus was better. That doesn't mean that IXL is not a good program. I kind of felt like that might be geared towards more older kids. That was just kind of my feeling, although that's not what they say. I just felt like my girls benefit more from the structure of watching a video, connecting with the instructor, because they're kind of fun teachers, a lot more fun than I had in school. And they really break down the principles in a way of like, how can you use this in real life? And that's always been my issue with traditional schooling. Don't tell me all this kind of stuff. Don't teach me this stuff if I don't know how this is going to impact me in real life, because I'm in school to learn, and it just seems stupid if I don't know how to use this stuff that you're giving me, right? Okay, so that was our core study. So the math, the science, we did health classes. What else was there? Reading, comprehension, all the core stuff that you really want to make sure that you get in. That for me, I felt like I could check that box. And what I will say that I think Power Homeschool could probably improve upon is you do have a way as a parent to sign in and see what's going on. It's a little clunky, okay? So I wish that was a little bit more expansive. I wish I could get like notifications every day if my kids completed what they were supposed to complete. Things like that that just make it a little bit easier for parents. It's possible that IXL does that. From the screenshots on their website, it looked a lot more detailed as far as the information it gives parents. I felt like that was a little bit lacking in Power Homeschool. However, it still worked for my girls. Okay, so that's their core studies. Because I want to make sure they keep that interaction with other people, that kind of classroom setting, we also did Outschool. Okay, you can find them at outschool.com. And this is online learning, but it's like individual classes. And some of the classes are really cool, you guys. Instead of art class, it's like draw Taylor Swift's costumes from her last tour. It really connects with kids on their level. And there's so many different things. So they do have core studies. By the way, it's a great site as well for tutoring. So if your kid is in traditional school and they need some help outside of school, Outschool is a really cool resource for that. For us, again, not really knowing what we're doing and just kind of testing everything out, we decided with our budget that the girls could do 2 classes a week. So we did a Spanish class, and that ended up being, that was twice a week, and it was $36 per girl for that. But that was 2 classes, okay? I think Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then they did a baking class, which has made a huge difference in them cooking around the house and doing things around the house in general. And that was only once a week, and that was $12 per child. So you can see the prices really vary. It's not like a standard thing, although they do offer something called Outschool Unlimited. I tried that the first month. So that is recorded videos on lots of different topics that your kids can watch at any time. And they just charge, $29.99 a month for that. We tried it the first month. The girls didn't even look at it. I was like, okay, that's not going to work. We need something a little bit more structured. And honestly, I think that's a new program for them. And they needed a lot more courses. And I wanted the girls to have that live interaction. So with these live classes, they had a lot more people in their Spanish class actually than their baking class. A lot of times the baking class was just my girls and the teacher. And the teacher lived in Canada, which I thought was kind of interesting. And it focused on sweets and treats. So we always had that around our house. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. We enjoyed eating it. We may have had to get some bigger clothes as a result, but that was a lot of fun. And like I said, the girls really excelled at that. And now they're not scared to do anything in the kitchen. And a lot of that's because of this class and just feeling more confident, and that builds their confidence. And then, you can add on to it, and they can tackle pretty much any recipe we throw at them, which is really cool. One thing I will say about Outschool that I got a little frustrated with is everything was going great up until the end of March. So my family and I decided to take a trip over spring break to go to Florida and hang out as a family. And I told the teachers in advance for Outschool, I told them, I said, okay, we just need to break for a week. So for the baking class, they were only going to miss one class. For the Spanish class, they were going to miss two classes because that happens twice a week. And the Spanish teacher told me, okay, just go into Outschool and indicate that you just want to pause it for a week. And the baking teacher said, don't worry about it. I'll handle it on my end. I much prefer what the baking teacher did. For the Spanish teacher, when we got back and it was time for the next class, I got a notification from Outschool saying that Addison had been removed from the class because someone else took her seat. Now, the Spanish teacher never told me that if I paused it for 1 week, and they never missed class the whole school year. If I paused it for a week, another person could take her spot. I was never told that. So I was not too happy with the Spanish teacher, and we just dropped the class at that point. So they didn't get quite a full year of Spanish, but they still had a really good time doing it. So that's a note. If you're going to use Outschool and you pause it, just know if that's a popular class, someone could come and take your spot. Okay, so that's Outschool. We also tried Simply Piano. Now that is an app that can teach you how to play piano, guitar. There might be some other instruments as well. What we did is we got an annual subscription, and that was $179.99. It's kind of a lot, but it kind of, the girls had taken different types of musical lessons in the past, and I wanted to kind of keep up with that. Their music teacher left town, and then they kind of quit doing lessons. And I was like, well, maybe we can try this. We have like a little keyboard piano over there. That didn't really work out. So the subscription we got was for 6 people. And I thought, well, if they don't use it, I'll use it. My husband will use it. My other boys will use it. Yeah, not so much. So that was kind of a waste. Like I felt like I had to constantly tell them to do the piano, and then they just really didn't enjoy it. And it was like probably 3 or 4 months ago. I was like, okay, just stop. This part of it is not working. So for my girls, at least, Simply Piano did not work. Another app that we used is Duolingo. So this goes along with their Spanish class. Duolingo is a top-rated app that can teach you different languages. And we live in San Diego, and many people here speak Spanish, and my oldest son has been taking Spanish classes at school for a while. I studied it a lot growing up, and we decided as a family we would get a family account for Duolingo. Now, I'm not going to go through all the prices. You can go online and see what it is. We started with Super Family Duolingo, and that was, let's see, $119.99 a year. But then a couple months ago, we upgraded to Duolingo Max. And that total was $239.99, but they split the difference because we were upgrading. Duolingo Max is an enhanced version of Duolingo, and it's powered by AI. And what I kind of instigated that because I do the app every day, and the characters will interact with you. You can actually have conversations. And whatever you say, they'll respond, in an appropriate way. It also gives you more information about why you may have missed, a sentence, a problem, whatever you want to call it, because they give you all of these like little quizzes, so you can learn the language. And for me, I really wanted to upgrade. This wasn't so much for the girls, but because it was a family plan, there were things I was like, I don't know why that's wrong. Why is that wrong? And if you don't have a teacher to talk to, then you can upgrade to Duolingo Max and get more instruction. So I'm having fun with it. I think it's kind of cool. I'll let you know later if it was worth the additional money, but kind of fun. All right, now let's go back and talk about the Kindles. I mentioned it in the beginning. They were $139.99. Technically, they were Christmas gifts, but I did add it as part of our total because it is related to the school and their whole experience. So once you have, I was very new to Kindles, okay? So I just went online. I'm like, oh, this looks like a good one. But then you have to get the books. And this is something, honestly, I'm still trying to figure out the best way for us to do this. I felt like the girls needed to have more reading. And I mean, they were reading, for their different classes and stuff, but I just felt like, listen, if they could pick whatever books they wanted to read, I felt like that would be a good experience for them. In school, we would be given these stupid books. I thought they were all stupid pretty much. I don't remember most of them, so I'm like, what was that all about? But I remember the books that I'm most interested in. So I thought, okay, we'll do our own little thing and I'll let them pick whatever books they want to read. So Kindle offers something called Kindle Unlimited, and that's $11.99 a month. They do give you like a free 3-month trial in the beginning. So we thought we'd test that out, but we quickly realized that that does not work for us at all. They're mainly adult books, not a lot of kids stuff, which is what the girls wanted to read. So I don't really recommend that for kids. They do offer a whole program just for kids called Kindle Kids, and that's $5.99 a month. We decided not to do that either. My husband does not like subscription services. So this was a whole process for him this year because everything's subscription. So what we ended up doing is we were trying to figure out how much reading should they do in addition to their studies. And we originally started with read at least X amount of pages. I think it was like 13 pages, something like that. And then it was more like, well, we really want these books to be completed by a certain time, so maybe we should just set a deadline for the entire book to be read by, and then you read at your own pace, because I really want to instill in the girls more responsibility. And it shouldn't be you have to read 13 pages. You should be able to look at a book that's a couple hundred pages and say, okay, well, I need to have this book done by the end of the month. How many pages do I need to read today? I want them to be able to budget their time. And this is a great way to do that. So we're still playing around with all of that. We ended up purchasing 3 different books, and this was just through Amazon. And the prices vary. The first one was $7.99, and the second 2 were $3.99. So we spent a total of $15.99 on books. Now, if you kind of break that down, that is less than the $5.99 subscription. I don't know. Is it worth it? I don't know. Some months maybe, other months maybe not. I've also heard that you can rent Kindles, not Kindles, but the books that you would read on a Kindle, so the electronic version, that you can rent those from libraries. This is a whole new world to me. It seems kind of silly, honestly, to rent something electronic, but apparently this is what the libraries do now. So to be continued. I think we will dive into this more next year. And then the last thing that we really did were just these YouTube videos. So we decided from the beginning that we wanted to document our journey in homeschooling for you guys. But it's not just about that. It's about, when the girls do their questions each week, I want to make sure that they understand the material. Well, that's something that I didn't even mention. So they had those questions each week. They had to come up with a question. You guys see the videos on YouTube. They had to do the research, find 3 different sources, combine the information into a paragraph, had to be 100 words or more. And then I checked it over. But the questions were about real things that they were experiencing in life, because there's so many times that things happen and we're like, I wonder about that. It'd be interesting to learn more about that. But it's like a fleeting moment because we're all so busy, right? So the idea is for them to rethink of those moments and actually do a little bit of research and learn something. And then they present that on the YouTube video each week. And so that was to prove that they learned something, that they could communicate to someone else, in this case, you guys, that they knew something. It also, like I said earlier, helped with the school to show them that they're learning so they can get credit. And it's also about learning how to communicate in general and present information. That was one thing that I could tell one of my girls in regular school was starting to fall behind because she would get so nervous about presenting in front of people. And some people, that's just the way it is. And if you push that too much, then they develop like this lifelong issue regarding it. And I feel like doing these videos was a really great way for her to start to break out of that, to feel more comfortable because there's not a bunch of school kids around. It's her and her sister talking to a camera. And also to be creative with the editing of those videos because neither of them knew anything about editing. And they found an app, and each week they would take turns editing. And sometimes, I don't know if you guys noticed recently, they've been playing around a lot with transitions and graphics and stuff like that. That's another skill, and especially for this generation. And so that's why we ended up doing the YouTube videos. Outside of all of that, this year we did not do any extracurricular activities for the girls. I mean, this was enough. This was like we were trying to figure things out and just, trying to get our basic education done and playing around here and there. But we didn't do, like some years, we did gymnastics or dance or, like I said, the music lessons, but we didn't do anything like that. It was more focused on their studies. Okay, so are you ready for the grand reveal of how much money we spent this year? Okay, when I combine everything together, so it's the courses, it's, the apps, it's just the curriculum, Bridge Academy, which does all the behind the scenes stuff for us. When I add everything up that we spent, it was $5,547. But that is also including the laptops and the Kindles, which we don't have to buy again for next year. If I were to break down that 5,000 number, that is $2,773.50 per kid that we did for this school year. But like I said, that number is actually less. So, will we continue to do the same next year? I don't think it'll be exactly the same. I want to talk to the girls and debrief with them and, figure out what they may want to change moving forward. I feel like this is a very fluid process, but this did work for us this year. And I do feel like they really learned, and they have grown in so many other ways beyond just learning. They are so independent, and they just volunteer and do stuff. And because they weren't bound by regular school and school hours, they're actually making money in the neighborhood. Like, people are paying them to walk their dog and stuff. I mean, it's stuff like this that you just can't foresee. But when you open this up and you open up learning, the other thing that we did was I let them kind of choose, because they could learn, besides some of those live online classes, they could learn whenever they wanted to, right? They could, pick up their laptop and do whatever. And we did have goals, like every day, I kind of want you to do this, but if you want to take a day off, and this happened a couple of times, that's okay. Take a day off, but then you're gonna have to make it up by the end of the week. Again, these are these time management skills that will help them throughout life. I know as an entrepreneur myself, if I don't have good time management skills, I'll just be laying on this bed all day and not get up and do my work, right? So I think this is gonna help them in a lot of different ways moving forward. So that's what we did, guys. That's how much money we spent. I'll keep you posted and let you know what we decide for next year. And stay tuned for the video with the girls and I, where we just kind of debrief and talk about how we might change things up. Thanks for watching us this year. It's been a lot of fun, and hopefully it helped you too.